Okay, so we need to talk about Blake Lively's motion to dismiss. And basically, she is trying to get Justin Baldoni's lawsuit against her dismissed. Basically, trying to use an anti SLAPP law, essentially, that was enacted in California in January of 2024, that basically states that a person who alleges or files a complaint about sexual harassment, really anything that is discriminatory. So, this doesn't just apply to sexual harassment, sexual assault, or any of that. It could be discrimination. So when she's trying to use this law to say, well, she's shielded from any type of repercussions, Justin Baldoni essentially can't defend himself, provide evidence or facts or anything else because, this is considered retaliatory. Like him by presenting facts and filing this lawsuit against her, that somehow that is retaliatory, and it's not in its nature. So I want to just pick one little section of this to go over because there's a lot to break down. And until we get Bryan Freedman, that is Justin Baldoni's attorney, to speak more about this or to actually file he actually responds to this and he files a response, we're not going to know the full details of what he's going to apply or arguments that he's going to use. But essentially, Blake Lively is, as he called her, he already responded, which I did a video at almost midnight last night about this, where he essentially says that she's abhorrent and that she is a privileged elite that is trying to abuse, not that she is trying, that she is abusing the legal system, but that it's not going to work, and that he plans to swiftly, it's funny he used the word swift, to dismantle her argument. Let's get into the details. Now, I came across this clip. Now, this is the music producer that was on Deadpool, and he is giving an interview. And I want you to listen carefully to what he says here, because this is very important when we talk about the malice involved in this case. And that Blake Lively, in order to, this law that she's trying to shield herself under, that she, there are statutes that go with it. Like there are requirements that you have to meet. You can't just make an accusation and say, oh, this person, if they sue me or if they counterclaim what I'm saying, then, oh, this is retaliatory and therefore they can't do it. And this case should just be dismissed. And I should be able to make any claims that I want, regardless if they're false, regardless if there's no evidence of it, and regardless if I then make it public and then try to destroy someone's reputation and, more importantly, their career. So listen to this carefully, and then we'll get into, like I said, more details about it.
Come easily maybe, but piano driven with ambience. It's like lots of scores, right? That is the vibe. Just did that for Blake Lively's film. It Ends With Us, which is actually coming out in another week or two.
Nice.
Yeah.
So then, are you like grabbing from that from the book, or are you grabbing?
I didn't read the book. No, she called me as we were in London finishing Deadpool, and she's like, she called me out of the blue, and she's like, I've been hearing what you've been doing on Deadpool, and Ryan talks about you so much, and blah blah blah. And she's like, and then I found out that you did Age of Adeline, which I didn't even realize, and yeah, it was her.
They don't know.
They don't know. But she did. She found out, and and she had kind of moved into the lead position of finishing this film, and so we came in and scored the film in 3 weeks from beginning to end, which was I think a record. And there was like 50 minutes of score, 55 or something. So I did it with one of my first assistants, and we had a great time. But luckily, it was simple. It was ambience and piano and some electric guitar. We did some strings, but it was very simple. And I'm always looking for simplicity, not necessarily.
Okay, so he goes into more things, but this is the part that is very important. He says that she had been put in charge of finishing this film. Let's go back a little bit.
Yeah, it was her.
They don't know.
They don't know. But she did. She found out, and and she had kind of moved into the lead position of finishing this film.
She moved into the lead position of finishing this film. No, she wasn't. She wasn't put into any lead to finish this film. She actually went behind, according to the documents, she went behind his back and started usurping him and removing his authority from the film, from doing these things. And Justin Baldoni had no idea about this because you can hear she called him directly, not Wayfair, who was in charge of this production. She went outside of the scope of her responsibility and what she was hired for. And this is way before any type of lawsuit had happened. The movie was coming out in a couple weeks. I think he said in 2 weeks. It's just about to come out. So we're talking about the summertime, last summer. So this was before anything else. But when he was brought on, this was, when the film was wrapping up, it was towards the end. And so again, when you look at the timeline of it, and they say that she's saying that she didn't have this Machiavellian scheme in order to take over things. Then what do you call this? Who authorized you to do this? Did Justin Baldoni authorize you to do this? Who gave you permission to hire and fire people from the set? You took an authority position on your own, usurping, once again, what you were supposed to be doing on this film, which was just act. And as we see with the wardrobe, we see with the filming and her causing delays, her refusing to come back on set to film, and having this 17-point document that she wants to keep saying is the harassment that she experienced. But that 17-point document doesn't, that, or the 17 points that were on there was no harassment alleged. If it was a true harassment, then there would have been the proper channels taken for that type of meeting to take place. There would have been someone recording the minutes, someone recording the conversation. There would have been attorneys involved from both sides. There would have been investigation, whether through California's sexual harassment code and SAG-AFTRA, which she did not report to any of these people while this was going on. Sony has come out and said that they didn't receive any sexual harassment complaints. And so she's not provided any receipts or documents to show that she filed any sexual harassment complaints. This was a meeting of demands that she made in order to continue filming, or else the film would have been held hostage. And we know that language was used before, where it was alleged that she strong-armed Sony into getting the PGA credit, into getting a credit as a producer on the film. So when you see this and her going behind Justin Baldoni's back and basically is like, do what I want or else, which is also alleged in the lawsuit, on top of her going outside of the scope of her work, and if he didn't want it, she still was going to strong arm him regardless of the no in order to get her way. What does she talk about? She talks about doing a rug pull. And at Forbes Summit for Women, she says that's her plan coming in. They think that she's being hired, for one thing, to just be an actor, because she has a production company that is a failure. She's not launched any projects. So instead of launching her own projects, which there have been numerous films that have been announced that are supposed to be under her production company, but they've gone nowhere. So instead of being able to produce her own work, to create her own films, her goal, is what she said in the Forbes Women's Summit, was to go in and take over other people's projects. And the director has no idea that she's doing this. The producers, no one has any idea she's doing this. She does it sneakily. She does it conniving. She manipulates, and she finds a way to get her way, and does essentially a rug pull, pulling the rug from underneath them. So they have no idea what is happening behind the scenes. She had spoken on doing that. And that is malice, to purposely do these things. And then you see this in conjunction with her doing this, hiring this guy. And she is claiming that she is now in charge of the movie. She was taking lead of finishing the movie. And in no possible way did that happen, other than her own mind, other than her strong arming Justin Baldoni. Now, there's a lot of malice that can be pointed out in this case, but I wanted to lead back to this because the code that she's trying to claim covers her. Well, it speaks to this and it speaks to the intentionality of the person making the claims. Now, I shared this yesterday and I kind of went over the different parts of this, but I want to go over it again for you guys who haven't seen it and how this just, again, we're just taking one little part right now, not even the entire case. But just as a lay person, because you guys know I am not an attorney, but this is my interpretation. And these are the things that I'm seeing, the receipts that I'm seeing, and how I'm interpreting this. Now, we need Bryan Freedman to respond, and I cannot wait for it in a legal filing to actually respond to her for her filing to be dismissed, for this lawsuit to be dismissed. But look here, it says a communication made by an individual without malice regarding an incident of sexual assault, harassment, or discrimination is privileged under Section 47. There was malice, not only towards Sony, but Justin Baldoni and Wayfair Studios, because all of her actions in the evidence shows how she and Ryan Reynolds tried to take over this movie, even lying to Justin Baldoni and saying that she wrote the rooftop scene, but then admitting on the red carpet that no, it was Ryan Reynolds, who he has no rights or authority to write anything. And I'm wondering why the Writers Guild has not come out and said anything, because if you are writing a scene for a movie, there's all types of legal hoops that you need to go through and to assign who has done what, giving credit to who, and all of that. But that is with malice to say you wrote the scene, and that is the belief and information that everyone on the film has. But then to find out, no, later, actually, he wrote it and I lied about it. Another action of malice, of deception, going behind Justin Baldoni's back, going behind Wayfair Studios, going behind Sony's back. And again, allegedly saying that if she does not get her producer credit, if she doesn't get her way, if her edit of the movie is not chosen, that she was going to file a sexual harassment complaint against them, threatening them. And, it also goes in to talk about, it says prevailing defendant in any defamation action brought against the defendant for making a communication that is privileged under this section shall be entitled. What communication did she do that was privileged? She took that CRD complaint in California of sexual harassment and she shared it with the media. She publicized it and then worked with them, which she does not deny, work with them in order to make that complaint public, therefore erasing the privileged, the notion of privilege here. When you think of attorney-client privilege, when you think of filing a complaint, your name as the alleged victim, it is not made public. It is not for public consumption. Those documents are kept private, also known as privilege. But she released them to the public in conjunction with the New York Times. Right? So doing that, and then we need to find out who else did she share it with, because we know in a coordinated effort at the same time, all of the other actors, or some of them who were in this film, well, they just automatically unfollowed at the exact same time, unfollows, or in the same period of time, the same day, unfollowed Justin Baldoni, and then, talking about the New York Times article, read this, and being on her side. When you think about how did she share that with them? Were there group chats? Were there team meetings? It had to be coordinated, which shows malice. Was she bad-mouthing him to other people and saying all of this stuff was happening to everyone but the proper channels? When you look at this, and there's a lot more to it, we can go into the reasonable basis, which she does not, and this ties into, if it was reasonable, why didn't she file complaints through the proper channels? And it has to be factual information. And this is where we're going to get to in a second, where the judge cannot determine what is factual. So going into, let me see. Okay. So I just I did different searches on SAG-AFTRA, I can never say it, say SAG-AFTRA, and what is the proper way in order to file file a complaint of sexual harassment in the workplace. I wondered, are they trained on this? Is this something that they sign? Is there a document with SAG-AFTRA that they sign when they agree to be part of this union, that if something like this takes place, that they will report it at a certain amount of time? I'm actually trying to get a hold of some of these contracts from some of these unions and guilds that she's part of. Has she agreed to follow those proper channels and then decided not to? And again, did not allege any sexual harassment until the film was already done. It had already come out in theaters, and it was months later in December that she decides to go straight to California to file this complaint. So it says here, yes, SAG-AFTRA, and actually I'm gonna make it bigger because I like you guys to be able to see. Oh, if I make it too big, you can't see anything. Okay, it says, yes, SAG-AFTRA educates its members and industry stakeholders about sexual harassment prevention and provides resources for reporting, support, including a code of conduct and guidelines. Okay, not just for the person that's being accused, but the accuser has guidelines that need to be followed. Okay, and they have harassment protections, reporting mechanisms, training and education, support services. So when she said, like, let's just erase from our minds that she was not married to Ryan Reynolds. She's just the D-list actress that she is. She's very one note. No one will ever claim that Blake Lively is a great actress by any stretch of the imagination. And so let's just say she was just like basically Blake Lively without Ryan Reynolds and all of his involvement. If she was just a normal person who's experiencing this in the workplace, these are the things that she's supposed to go through. This is all the support that she would receive from the industry for doing this. And she really had no fear of blowback or retaliatory things done to her, especially in the wake of Me Too and in the wake of, when you think about just how these things are set up. And in most cases, people are going to believe a woman when she makes these claims, even without evidence. We've seen this over and over. So she had support here. I want to dig into this more, but not in this video. Okay. I want to get into right now. Sorry, here it is. Okay. So with her claiming protection from filing this, right? They're interpreting as though her just alleging this is enough to give her protection. But there's a procedure. You just filing that and saying it happened, it doesn't just say, oh, it's stamped, notarized, that's it. Justin Baldoni sexually harassed her. Case closed. We know it to be true. They have to investigate it. And I haven't heard anything about this investigation. But listen to this. If it accepts the case, have they even accepted Blake Lively's case? Why hasn't she said that they accepted her case? Why haven't her lawyer said, listen, the merits, there was enough here in her complaint that warrant for them to accept this complaint? To them, CRD will independently investigate. CRD independently investigates the facts and the legal issues. So they have to first accept it. You can file it, but that doesn't mean anything. The filing means nothing. So before they could even accept the case, before they could investigate the facts of the case, she had already been working with the New York Times to put this out. And I am wondering if she was advised to do this in order to protect herself, in order to give some teeth to this. Because when she went to Megan Twohey and the other authors of that article, they were Megan Twohey especially was heavily involved with Me Too. She's like the godmother of Me Too. Where they said, okay, you're showing us all these documents. Okay, but do you have any HR complaints? Did you go to HR about this sexual harassment? And if so, where are they? Nope. There are none. Okay. All right. What can we do to clean this up? What can we do to cover our behinds? Now, this is just my theory. But as they're troving through thousands of documents, as they claim, even though they cherry picked and did not put things in order or context, and just says that this is what happened. The New York Times says for a fact, this is what really happened. And I was actually the first person to point that out months ago when I found the earlier date. I found the video and put it out there. And then I found the earlier date, which the date was the date was in there. It was December 12th that the video was made, in which Megan Twohey states that this is what happens for a fact in this case. Right. And then we found, if you go back and look at the metadata, I heard her name on, I think her name is Leanna Newton on X, but she goes by Kiara J 2002, I want to say. But I talked about that previously, where she actually found an even earlier date in the article. I found the early date in the video and the video itself, but then the early date in the actual article came through researching the metadata, and that was October 30th. So we know as far back as 2 months before the article came out, 2 months before she filed her complaint with California, a full 2 months, they had already been working on this. But if you go back, the date is probably even earlier. How long was this being planned? Who told her to file with California? Why didn't she do it before? But then for them to put it out there, for her to file it on the 20th, the New York Times stuff comes out and is public on the 21st of December. Okay. There's not even 24 hours in between there. They barely give Justin Baldoni any time to respond. They put it out there as a matter of fact. But this is the important thing. They put it out there as a matter of fact, usurping the laws, the very laws she is trying to get protection from, usurping the process of the very law she's trying to seek protection from. Because what? If they accept the case, how in the world would they have accepted the case that fast? How in the world would they have been able to independently investigate the facts and the legal issues that fast? This involves reviewing respondents' response to complaints and other information and evidence that complaints and respondents submit, among other things. CRD attempts to resolve the dispute in appropriate cases. So with this, it goes into the proper response. This involves reviewing the respondents' responses to complaints. Justin Baldoni did not have time to respond to the complaint. She files it on the 20th, right? I believe the night of the 20th is when the New York Times hits him up with, hey, right before Christmas, hey, you want to respond to this article that's coming out in these allegations. And actually what we are alleging is fact. What we are saying is fact. That's Megan Twohey's mouth. Okay. She said, this is what really happened. So they're saying it is a fact. And then the next day on the 21st, they publish everything. This privileged communication with California. And it says, in order for this complaint to be real, again, we already covered, has to be accepted, has to be independently investigated with all of the facts of the legal issues, And then it has to allow the respondent to respond to the person who is being accused of whatever the action is. In this case, it will be sexual harassment. And it says, and other information and evidence that complainants and respondents submit. Justin Baldoni had no time to submit anything. She put this out as her accusation as a matter of fact. Just because she filed it means nothing. She usurped the actual procedures that are in place. And I haven't heard anything about this. I haven't heard about this being investigated. I haven't heard a word. If they had actually found that there had been sexual harassment, I'm thinking we would have heard about it by now. If the case was accepted, wouldn't her team be touting that and very excited to talk about how, yes, California is doing this? But no, it's been crickets. Has Justin Baldoni been given an opportunity, and Wayfair and all of them, to submit, to respond, to submit their documents, to submit their evidence? No. And then it says, among other things, CRD attempts to resolve the dispute in appropriate cases. They attempt to just resolve it, right? We don't know what that resolution is. And it says appropriate cases. So that means even cases that they accept, even cases they investigate, they don't always try to resolve it. It may be outside of their jurisdiction of what they're allowed to do, that they don't have a say over it. Or they find that the evidence does not support the claim and that the respondent was falsely accused. And that the case it may not even be appropriate. So I wanted to walk you through this. This was kind of long. I'm still gathering my thoughts because I don't usually try to dig through legal things. Again, I'm a lay person, and these are just some of the highlights I am seeing. Guys, if you have any other information or anything you want to add, I will be continuing to do videos about this throughout the day, throughout the weekend. Girl, we here. Girl, guy, whoever you are, we are here for the long haul because this is absolutely ridiculous. I am just, it is just disgusting what has been going on, and that Blake Lively tried to shield herself a law that was designed to protect vulnerable individuals against powerful people who have really suffered or really have true claims of harassment, of discrimination, protecting them from filing their claim because the other person is more powerful. The other person has more money. The other person has connections that can make life miserable for that person. And it would normally scare a person from making these claims, because if you have more money, if you're more powerful, well, then you can just bury that person in litigation that they cannot afford, that they cannot keep up with responding to, and really destroy them. And that is how they keep people silent. That is how they keep victims silent. But Blake Lively, who in my belief is the actual person who has done the malice, who has done the harm, who has done the most egregious things, along with her and Ryan Reynolds and everyone else involved in this that has been on their side, and the things that we've seen, even the media shielding them, not investigating the facts of the case, just trying to throw content creators under the bus and label us as misogynist and far right. And we have some great political agenda. Even they're labeling men this way, but they say call us mommy sleuths, but they say it's far right women and anybody who's on the left, where there are plenty of people. I've watched their videos. I don't care about their politics. They don't care about mine. We don't care. That has nothing to do with this. They're on the left. They're far left. They're progressive. They may not even live in this country. They have nothing to do with politics, but they're trying to label us all as that and try in an attempt to silence us, rather than them investigating this case, looking at the evidence, taking it apart, looking at the behavior of Blake and Ryan in interviews and in the past, things they've lied about, things that they've done. No, They want to attack the people talking about it in a way to silence us and to bring fear. And now you even see people like Haley Bieber threatening to sue people for talking about the facts, evidence, and giving their opinion on it. I mean, we are living in a new time where these Hollywood elites cannot stand the fact that they are being called out by us peasants, us regular people. They have the media on their side. They have the millions of dollars. They are the powerful. Who are we and our struggle streaming and our little, on our phones, on TikTok, wherever it is, you commenting? Who are we to call them out? Who are we to look at evidence? Who are we to use our brain, our eyes, our ears, our intuition to make judgment calls? No, you're all just far right lunatics. And there's some great conspiracy. The only conspiracy I see is coming from the media and coming from Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and that whole team. So with that, guys, it's going to be a great day. I will see you in the next one.